What's happening, goukigod here, and in this video I wanted to talk about this year's Call of Duty game. The Call of Duty game which is going to go back to roots and make everybody happy and sing and dance, and it's going to be a wonderful time. Yeah, let's hope so anyway. So I thought I would take a moment to discuss this year's Call of Duty game because of what's been said recently by the CEO and the COO of Activision at a recent earnings call. Before I get into it though, I'm playing Advanced Warfare, you may have noticed, and if you're wondering why, it's because Sledgehammer was the developer of Advanced Warfare, and obviously they're going to be the developer of this year's game as well, so I thought that that was kind of appropriate. So yeah, to get back to the topic, there was a recent earnings call which was held by a lot of top people at Activision, and they're actually uncharacteristically honest about the state of Call of Duty, saying that it hadn't really met their expectations and that also the setting didn't appeal to all of their fans. So in response to this, apparently this year's Call of Duty game is going back to its roots. Now, what exactly is Call of Duty's roots? I mean, the real roots would be World War II, but some people might argue that Call of Duty really took off and really got popular with Call of Duty 4 and the modern era. The other thing that we don't know about this relatively ambiguous statement is exactly what they mean about roots. Do they mean thematically? I mean, they might keep the near future or completely futuristic setting, but roots might be a return to boots on the ground gameplay and removing all the boosting and all the other sort of bits and pieces. My personal opinion is it's probably a thematic thing, or it's probably a combination of the two. Obviously you don't have exosuits and boost jumping in World War II, and I think it's also partially a knee-jerk reaction to the recent success of Battlefield with Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 has proven that it is possible to make a modern, compelling first-person shooter that is based in the past. I mean, Battlefield 1 isn't for everybody, but I personally think that it's an exceptional first-person shooter. So yeah, no one has confirmed what going back to its roots mean. No one's confirmed boots on the ground. I know that a lot of YouTubers, particularly in the Call of Duty community, are kind of losing their nanas and going, oh my god, boots on the ground is confirmed. But at this stage, it isn't confirmed as far as I know. We only are going off the back to its roots statement, which is exciting in itself. But yeah, we don't know what the gameplay mechanics are going to be like. I think that it's fair to say that a lot of the stuff that we've seen in the recent games will continue to be in this new game. Supply drops and microtransactions as well, I don't think are going anywhere, but we'll get into that in a little bit more detail towards the end of the video. Now, it's very interesting that Activision has publicly acknowledged that Infinite Warfare hasn't really lived up to their expectations, and also that it hasn't lived up to the expectations of fans, because that's not something that those guys normally do. And also, even despite the fact that Infinite Warfare has sold way less copies than Black Ops 3 and is underperforming as far as they see it, it was still one of the best-selling games of 2016. Hopefully this is a sign of Activision and also the development teams, which I think have way less creative control than we think. I think a lot of the business decisions and the game design mechanics are all driven by Activision. And I think, and I'm hoping as a fan of Call of Duty, that they're slowly catching on to the idea that what they've done with the games recently is putting a lot of people off, and they're putting themselves first rather than putting the fans first, and slowly but surely it's just eroding what Call of Duty is about and should be about. So I think the problems with the recent games are pretty obvious, but the main ones are that it's been developed to appeal to a mass market. I think Call of Duty has always been developed to appeal to a broad audience, but I think even more so than ever, it's really been designed not with the fans in mind and not with the people who enjoyed the original games in mind, and I think this has really diluted what Call of Duty is about. Now, as I mentioned, Call of Duty has always attracted a large casual player base, but I think Activision and to an extension their development teams haven't been able to balance what fans of the earlier games like and what attracts new players. I think also the push to monetize the game with loads of microtransactions and supply drops, like I said, has just really changed what Call of Duty is about. Supply drops in particular that contain weapons or other gameplay altering items, I think has really killed the game. And I think that's more apparent than ever with the recent changes that they've made to Modern Warfare Remastered. That game wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you can really see, because we've had like 10 years to get to know and love that game, you can really see the difference by adding supply drops and supply drop weapons and other goofy items into the game, how that kind of changes what the game feels like and its tone, and really dilutes what makes that game fun. One of the other big issues, and this is something that I've raised in a ton of other videos before, is that the tone of the game has become progressively less serious and less dark. Now, I don't think that being dark or super serious is necessarily the path to success, but Call of Duty in the past has typically covered topics that were real and as a result of that were quite dark and serious. And the new games just don't have that feel. They feel very arcadey. And yeah, Call of Duty has always been an arcade game in terms of mechanics, but never really in terms of its tone. And my guess would be that Activision are trying to bring on more young people. So they think that making things more goofy and colorful and vibrant will appeal to a younger audience. And this is pretty much why I'm still skeptical about this 2017 Call of Duty game. I copped an awful lot of flack about saying don't believe the hype for Modern Warfare Remastered. And I'll admit, I was pretty wrong. I think at the start when that game launched, everybody said that it looked and sounded amazing and it was just like playing the original but better. And I think that it still does in a lot of ways, but slowly but surely they're ruining it. So to a certain degree, I was right. You know, like it was great at launch, but now not so much. I mean, I was really still holding on to the idea that they might be able to sell it separately or that they would at some point because it just made sense to do so. But now if they do, I don't know. Unless it's super cheap, I'm not sure that I'm all that excited for it anymore now that they've kind of dirtied the waters, sullied the waters with all their supply drops and stupid melee weapons. So yeah, I'm pretty skeptical about this year's game. I don't think Activision has done a great job recently at keeping promises. There's the whole Modern Warfare supply drops issue where they originally said that it would be cosmetic only and now it's not. I think we had a similar issue with Black Ops 3 supply drops saying that they would only be cosmetic or that it even wouldn't have supply drops. And like I said, I don't think supply drops are going anywhere. I think it's a major part of their business in terms of Call of Duty, in terms of what brings in money. I mean, everybody complains about them and says that they hate them and they wish they weren't in the game, but I think unfortunately it's a vocal minority. If they weren't popular and they weren't selling, then they probably wouldn't be in the game, but the fact that they keep putting them in more and more games seems to indicate that they're making a lot of money. There was actually a quote from their earnings call that they said that Call of Duty is setting new records for in-game content sales. The franchise more than doubled the number of players who chose to purchase in-game content while maintaining an average revenue per paying user. So it sounds like the in-game transactions is just going up and up and up. So financially, there's no reason for them to stop. We all complain, but they basically say, I hear what you're saying. However, we made this many $1 million last year from it, so we're probably just going to keep doing that because why would we stop? The other reason that I'm skeptical is the 3-year development cycle. I don't think that in itself is a bad thing, but I do think it stops development teams being able to be nimble and change relatively quickly. I mean, I know that Call of Duty is a huge game, and changing the development halfway through the game would be a huge financial cost, and it would be very difficult in terms of development, changing assets and all that sort of stuff. So I think unfortunately with 3 years, this year's game started development way before the release of Battlefield and the success that came with Battlefield going back to its roots. So I don't know that Sledgehammer would have been able to turn things around. So that's why I'm really keen to see what they do with this year's game. Have Sledgehammer had the time to turn things around and really give us a return to roots Call of Duty game? And what does that mean? Does that mean that the theme is going back to its roots? Does that mean that the gameplay mechanics is going back to its roots? And does that mean that we're getting boots on the ground, like proper boots on the ground? But as usual, only time will tell. We'll have to wait until the end of the year to find out what's going on. But I really hope that this year is a good Call of Duty game. I haven't bought Infinite Warfare. It's the first Call of Duty game in like a really long time, almost 10 years that I haven't bought, and that's not great. I do enjoy my Call of Duty, so let's hope this year's game is good. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to leave the video there. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, or whatnot, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll do my very best to answer them as quickly as I can. But other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching, and I'm out.